You know that moment? It's 10 p.m. You weren't even hungry an hour ago, but somehow you're standing in front of the open fridge, eating ice cream straight from the carton, or chips straight from the bag. You don't even remember walking over there. Yeah, that moment isn't weakness. It isn't a lack of self-control, and it isn't even emotional eating the way most people understand it. What's actually happening is much stranger. Your body is running a stress response system that was designed millions of years ago to keep you alive in moments of danger. And in those moments, it works perfectly. But the modern world has broken something inside this system, and almost nobody talks about what's broken or why. In a moment, I'll show you why a Stanford neuroscientist spent decades proving that humans were never biologically designed to handle chronic stress. Why research published in Physiology and Behavior found that prolonged cortisol literally rewires your brain to crave specific kinds of food, and not the healthy ones. And why the eating you do under stress isn't really about hunger at all, but about something much harder to fix. By the end of this video, you'll understand more about why stress drives compulsive eating than 90% of nutritionists and therapists do. Quick question before we dive in. What's the time of day when you eat the most when stressed? Late morning? Mid-afternoon? After dinner? Late at night? Tell me in the comments. You're not weak. You're not broken. You were running a survival program that was never tested for the world you live in. The first force is the most important. Your body is perfectly designed to handle acute stress. It was never designed to handle chronic stress. When our ancestors faced a real threat, a predator, a fight, a sudden danger, the stress response kicked in instantly. Adrenaline and cortisol flooded the bloodstream. The body prepared for action. And here's the part most people get completely wrong. In that moment, appetite was suppressed. Hunger was the last thing on the menu. You can't run from a predator and digest a meal at the same time. So the body shut down digestion and released stored glucose for immediate energy. The threat passed in minutes. The cortisol dropped, the system returned to baseline, and you survived, never once thinking about food. This system is, biologically, a masterpiece. It kept human beings alive for hundreds of thousands of years. It works exactly as intended for what it was built for. The problem is that modern stress doesn't look like a predator. It looks like an email at 11 p.m., a boss with unrealistic expectations, a mortgage you can't quite cover, notifications that never stop, worries that play on repeat in your head every day for years. None of that is acute. All of it is chronic. And here's where the entire system breaks. Dr. Robert Sapolsky, a neuroscientist at Stanford, spent decades studying this exact phenomenon. In his classic work, Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers, he showed something profound. Animals in the wild almost never suffer chronic stress because their stressors are short and resolve quickly. Only modern humans live with stress systems that never get to turn off. And when cortisol stays elevated for weeks, months, years, something terrible happens. The same system that suppressed hunger during acute danger starts doing the opposite. It starts driving hunger. It starts increasing appetite. It starts pushing the body to store fat, especially around the abdomen, as if preparing for a famine that's never coming. Dahlman and colleagues, in a landmark paper published in PNAS, called this the comfort food response. Chronic stress doesn't just allow overeating, it actively promotes it, at a hormonal level, as a misguided survival strategy. Your body is doing exactly what it was built to do, but for a threat that never ends, instead of one that passes in minutes. The system can't tell the difference between a tiger and a deadline. It just sees prolonged danger and acts accordingly. Quick pause here. If this is the first time you've heard stress eating explained this way, do two things real quick. Hit the like button. It's the only signal YouTube uses to show this video to other people who need to hear it. And subscribe to the channel, because this is part of an ongoing series breaking down the psychology and biology behind the eating patterns nobody else explains clearly. You don't want to miss the next ones. Now let's keep going. The second force is what makes this even more painful: the hijacking of the reward system. When cortisol stays elevated, it rewires the brain's reward circuitry. It amplifies the hedonic system, the same dopamine pathways that respond to drugs, alcohol, and high-intensity pleasure. Research published in Physiology and Behavior by Dr. Tanya Adam and Dr. Alyssa Eppel demonstrated that chronically stressed individuals don't just eat more, they eat differently. They specifically seek out foods high in sugar, fat, and salt, what scientists call hyperpalatable foods. The stressed brain is searching for the fastest possible dopamine hit because that's the only thing that temporarily quiets the alarm. And the most efficient delivery system for dopamine that humans have ever encountered is processed food engineered to combine sugar, fat, and salt in proportions that don't exist anywhere in nature. No one craves broccoli when they're stressed. No one binges on plain rice after a bad day. The cravings are extremely specific. Pizza, ice cream, chocolate, chips. These foods don't just feed you, they medicate you, temporarily. What makes this darker is that the modern food industry knows this. Ultra-processed foods are engineered with extraordinary precision to exploit this exact pathway. You're not weak for craving them under stress. You're being targeted by an industry that profits from your nervous system being broken. The third force is the one almost nobody recognizes in themselves, the constant seeking that replaces real hunger. Here's what most stress eaters don't realize. The dramatic late-night fridge moment isn't actually the core of the problem. The core is the constant, low-level seeking of food rewards throughout the day. The cookie at 10 a.m., the chocolate at 3 p.m., the handful of nuts at 5, the sweet drink at 7, the dessert after dinner every night automatically. None of this is hunger. Real biological hunger is rare in modern life. Most people who claim to feel hungry all the time are actually feeling something else entirely. They're feeling the brain's constant search for small dopamine hits to regulate a stress system that won't turn off. Once you start watching for it, you'll see it everywhere in your own day. The moments where you reach for something, not because your stomach is asking, but because your nervous system needs a momentary distraction. It's not hunger, it's emotional regulation through food. And it's so automatic that most people have done it for decades without noticing. So here's what to actually do. First, address the root cause, not just the food. Stress eating is a downstream symptom. The upstream problem is chronic stress activation. Without doing something about that, sleep, walking, breath work, time off your phone, real rest, no nutrition strategy will hold long term. Second, build awareness around seeking, not just eating. Before each unscheduled food moment, ask yourself one question. Am I actually hungry, or am I trying to feel different? That single question, asked consistently, breaks the automatic pattern. Third, when you do eat, prioritize protein and fiber. These stabilize blood sugar, which reduces the cortisol spikes that drive cravings. They also produce real satiety, which is something hyperpalatable foods completely fail to do. Fourth, remove the easy access to hyperpalatable foods at home. This isn't about willpower. It's about reducing the friction between a stressed brain and the foods it craves. If the cookie isn't in the cabinet, the seeking behavior has nowhere to land. Most stress eating is opportunity-driven, not desire-driven. You're not fighting your nervous system. You're learning to recognize when it's in survival mode and giving it something other than food to settle it. The people who stop stress eating aren't the ones with more discipline. They're the ones who finally understood that they were never trying to feed themselves in the first place. Tell me in the comments, which force do you recognize most in your own life? The chronic stress that never turns off, the cravings for hyperpalatable foods, or the constant seeking throughout the day that you never realized wasn't hunger? I read every single comment. See you in the next one.